Almost 6 hours in, we're dealt Jack 3 suited in the under the gun straddle. The cutoff raises to 150. The big blind calls. We're going to be defending every suited combo under these conditions. I call for 100 more. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes Jack 9-4 with 2 hearts. We've got top pair and a flush draw. The big blind leads for 300. Where have we seen this before? Our hand doesn't need much protection since we can easily improve. We want to keep the opponent's bluffs in. I call. The cutoff doesn't mind all the action in front of him. He calls as well. All 3 of us are still in. The turn is the Jack of diamonds giving us trips. It's getting better and better for us. The big blind keeps his foot pressed to the floor with a bet of 600. We've kind of got everything. The big blinds representing trip jacks are better though when he continues firing after getting called in 2 spots. I don't see much reason to raise. I call. The cutoff doesn't need to be Sherlock Holmes in order to catch on that at least one of his opponents has a strong hand. He folds. It's down to heads up. The river is the 7 of spades, completing one of the straight draws. There's no trepidation from the big blind. He bets 1500. Maybe he flopped a set or 2 pair and has had us the whole way. Maybe he had a straight draw and just got there. Or maybe he also had a flush draw and has missed. I don't like seeing him bet, but we've got a strong hand, so it's tough to get away.
I feel like I'm beat here. So rough. Cold.
Great.
Yeah. Nice hand.
The haymakers keep on coming. The opponent led flop and turn with an open ender. We did everything right to keep the opponent's bluffs in while he was drawing slim, but he managed to get there. If he had queen 10 instead, or a flush draw and missed, he likely would have continued firing on the river as well, but this time it works out for him and he gets paid. Later on, we're dealt ace-king offsuit middle position with the straddle on. We haven't seen too many premiums today, and even when we haven't connected much with the board. This would be a good time to turn that around. I raised to 150. The small blind wants to make things interesting. He 3-bets to 500. He's one of the shorter stacks at the table with around 100 times the straddle amount. We've got removal to aces and kings, reducing the amount of those combos the opponent can have by 50%. Folding is not an option. We can play conservatively with a call. We can raise to a small amount and call off if we get jammed on, or potentially have some tough decisions post-flop if the opponent calls and we don't hit. Finally, our last option is to 4-bet rip it in order to get hands as good as jacks and sometimes even queens to fold. I played ace-king offsuit more conservatively in the first hand that we went over. We're switching gears and cranking out the aggression to 11. I 4-bet jam for 5,435 effective. Small blind checks his cards to make sure that they're both still aces. They are. He makes the call.
I mean, whatever you want to do. We'll show once.
We're running it once for another 5-figure pot, and I'm going to need a lot of help. The flop comes Jack 7-3 rainbow. It's not the type of flop that we were looking for. The turn deuce has a stone dead. The river is the 9 of clubs. It doesn't matter. I lose another massive pot. Every time that I've got something close to the top of my range, the opponent finds a way to show up with something better. In some of these spots, I can certainly lose less, but it's a lot easier said than done when good hands aren't holding up and we're on the wrong side of a pile of coolers. Then, when I make a fold, opponents are showing up with 3 deuce suited. I just can't seem to do anything right today. I add on for another 5,000 when we're dealt ace-jack offsuit in middle position. We're in for 30,000 total. I raise to 150. The under the gun straddle is the only caller. We're heads up in position. The flop comes king 6-4 with 2 diamonds. We don't connect too well, but we've at least got some backdoor draws with an over. The opponent checks. We're going to be keeping the pressure on. I bet 200. Our bet gives us the opportunity to win it right now without much showdown value, and if we get called, the plan is to continue betting if a diamond or high card comes out that gives us equity. We're not going to be winning this with a single post-flop bet though. That'd be too easy. The opponent calls. The turn is the 9 of diamonds giving us a flush draw. We now have removal to the nuts as well. The opponent checks. We can bet with impunity, knowing that it's very unlikely that we'll get check raised, and if we do, we can potentially rip it as a semi-bluff to make the under the gun player wish that he'd gone to a different poker room today. I bet 450, living up to the promise that I made earlier about continuing to bet if we got a high card or diamond on the turn. The opponent still isn't ready to return his cards to the dealer. He calls. The river's the 5 of hearts. That's okay. We didn't want a strong hand like the ace-high flush anyway. Under the gun checks. We've got nothing, but we know what the opponent doesn't have. We're not playing nice. I overbet 2,000. Almost regardless of what the opponent has, he's probably not feeling all that comfortable with the decision that he's facing. We likely would have gotten called quickly if the opponent had a flush. We don't necessarily need to be worried about him having a hand that strong because he appears to be deciding between calling or folding rather than calling or raising. He's supposed to fold over 50% of the time when he makes it to the river and is up against a bet this large. After 45 seconds, the opponent folds, we get the big bluff through and played it nearly perfectly other than the fact that we could have bet slightly smaller on the flop, but the sizing on the turn and river are solver approved. It's nice to see a pot pushed our way, especially when we got what must have been the best hand to fold. Now we're dealt Jack 4 suited in the big blind, the hijack limps in for 50. Small blind calls, we're getting a discount to see a cheap flop, I call for 25 more. Under the gun checks his option, we're going 4 ways to the flop, it comes ace king 9 with 2 diamonds, we've got a flush draw. With 2 high cards out there, this isn't a flop that'll connect well with most players when it's a limped pot. We all check. The turn is the deuce of diamonds giving us the 3rd nuts. Small blind checks, we're not going to allow anyone to see a free river. I bet 150. If we want to mitigate the damage today, we're going to need to get some action when we're at the top of our range like right now. Under the gun is a viewer of the channel, he doesn't let me down. He calls, the hijack and small blind fold, it's down to heads up. A blank would be ideal. The river is the queen of hearts, it's not a bad one for us. We had a fake flush right before this, and on the river, made over a pot-sized bet as a bluff. This time, with a real flush, we keep the same spirit and bet 500 into 500. We haven't been able to bet for value all that often today. It's one of the best feelings in poker when you make a large wager and you can sit back and relax knowing a pot is about to come your way no matter what the opponent decides to do. What's even better is when that bet gets called, you turn over the 3rd best hand possible, the opponent takes a second to realize that he's been gotten, and a nice amount of chips comes your way. The tide is turned, we're stringing some wins together, and there are a few wild players in the game that might be able to help us get unstuck. We pick up ace 3 offsuit under the gun +1. As the night goes on, the game plays bigger and bigger with multiple people double straddling. I've got the double straddle on to 100 this hand. One of those wild players that I alluded to raises to 500 from the cutoff. This is a huge sizing. Ordinarily, I'd fold with a weak ace to a raise this large, but the opponent is the type of guy that I like to get involved in pots with, and I don't quite realize how much the raise is for at the moment. I call thinking it's 400 before the dealer points out that she's not going to let me get 20% off. Kinda rude because I did have a coupon. I toss in another 100 to see the flop. We're heads up, out of position. The dealer puts out 6-5-4 rainbow. We've got an open ender, and in general, this is going to smash our straddle defend range. A lot of the time, I'd consider leading, but I know the hijack wouldn't fold a damn thing to me. He might raise big or even shove. I've already seen him do a number of absolutely insane things in hands against other people. I check. A lot of strong players will check back aces or kings the majority of the time on this flop, or they'll bet under half pot. In this case, the cutoff bet's 1,000. It's nearly a pot-sized bet. We're not supposed to go anywhere yet. We can call or raise. Any 7, deuce, or ace will probably give us the best hand. It feels a lot like we're up against jacks or something. If I thought a raise would induce a fold more than about 1% of the time, I'd consider it more. Semi-bluffing an opponent like this isn't going to work out very often though. I call. The turn is the queen of diamonds, it's no help at all. I check. The cutoff is concerned. After betting big on the flop and getting resistance, he checks back. Now it feels even more like we're up against jacks or 10s and the opponent doesn't like seeing an overcard his pair come out. The river is the deuce of hearts, giving us the super wheel to the 6. There's no way that the opponent checked back a straight on the turn. We've got the effective nuts. It's time to go for value. We only need to determine the proper sizing. Let's put ourselves in the opponent's shoes. If we had pocket jacks, how much would we be willing to call? I go with a bet of 1,700. It's a little over half pot, but it's a large portion of the cutoff stack. He only has 3,400 total. A jam might have been a better decision. I just didn't want to scare the cutoff away or give him too easy of a decision. This sizing should get called at a high frequency. The opponent has taken a little while to think about it. He doesn't want to let us have it without putting up a fight. He calls. We show him our super wheel, fit for Gravedigger. The cutoff doesn't like seeing it. We never find out what he called us with, as his cards remain face down. I was stuck 15,000 at the low point. We're currently only down about 10,000. I like the setup. It's a great game. If we keep things rolling, particularly with the double straddle to 100 on and run halfway decent, we've got a shot at potentially cruising past the break-even mark to book a solid win.